Justice League, right? Might as well. I'm walking through a ghost town, y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down, don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Hey, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, happy Wednesday, sir.
Happy Wednesday to you, partner, as well, and everybody out there joining us.
Well, we got football tomorrow. You believe that?
I love it.
It just keeps coming. It just keeps on coming. The NFL is the gift that keeps on giving. We got a big show this morning. We're going to be joined shortly by Will, our NBA insider, and then we have the NFL genius himself, Gene, coming on the show a little bit later this morning. But Mo, I wanted to start with this. I wanted to start with the WNBA this morning. Sometimes things happen. And you look at it afterwards and you have your feelings, and we're going to dissect it in a second here. And then you have to look at it as a whole and ask yourself, did we see this coming? And I think that's the situation that I want everyone to kind of keep in mind as we go through this story this morning of, did we see this as something that was going to come up? Because if the answer is yes, then you're going to have a very different opinion of this story than if the answer is no. So what I'm referring to, Mo, is an interview that the commissioner of the WNBA, her name is Kathy Engelbert, she did an interview on CNBC's Power Lunch. And during this interview, they talked about a lot of things WNBA related. You know which names they talked about the most. Sure. And one of the things that she was asked during this interview by host Tyler Matheson was about what Tyler referred to as the darker and more menacing tone taken by the fan bases on social media. He said it's one where race has been introduced into the conversation, where sexuality is sometimes introduced into the conversation as well. He then went on to said, how do you try to stay ahead of that? How do you try to tamper it down or act as a league when two of your most visible players are involved? Not personally, but their fan bases are involved, saying some very uncharitable things about each other. Engelbert went on to give a very well-crafted response, Mo. She said, there's no more apathy. Everybody cares, she said. It's a little of that Larry Bird, Magic Johnson moment, if you recall, from 1979, when those two rookies came in from a big college rivalry, one white, one black. And so we have that moment with these two. But the one thing I know about sports, you need a rivalry. That's what makes people watch. They want to watch games of consequence between rivals. They don't want everyone being nice to one another. Engelbert then went on to acknowledge that social media didn't exist when Bird and Magic played, and added that she tells players all the time, if someone's typing something and you wouldn't ask their advice, ignore it. The commissioner concluded her response by mentioning how corporate partners are endorsing WNBA players now more than ever. And then they went on and they finished up the interview. All well and good. Until it wasn't, because Mo, the WNBA players and the players union for the WNBA is not happy. They thought that was an opportunity for the WNBA commissioner to address something head on that has been an issue the entire season within the WNBA, and that is these conversations involving things like race, misogyny, sexism, homophobia that are consistently coming up in fan conversations, fan reactions, non-fan reactions, news media reactions of people who aren't familiar with the WNBA and are now trying to cover the WNBA because the WNBA is demanding headline attention. Women's National Basketball Association Executive Director Terry Jackson released a statement Tuesday night rebuking Engelbert's comments. She said, quote, "Here is the answer that the commissioner should have provided to the very clear question regarding racism, misogyny, and harassment experienced by the players. She should have said there is absolutely no place in this sport or in life for the vile hate, racist language, homophobic comments, and the misogynistic attacks that our players have faced all season on social media. This is not about rivalries or iconic personalities fueling a business model. This kind of toxic fandom should never be tolerated or left unchecked. It demands immediate action, and frankly, it should have been addressed a long time ago." So, Mo, that brings us to where we are this morning. Now, I would imagine that the commissioner of the WNBA maybe didn't know she was going to be asked about that. Now, I'm sure she knew she was going to be asked about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and I'm sure she had some pocket answers developed for their rivalry and stuff like that. But, and to the credit of the CNBC host, they took it a step further. Although it involved Caitlin and Angel, they took it to what we really know it's about. It has homophobic undertones. It has misogynistic undertones. It has racial undertones. And that's the angle they took it from. And she took it and spun it that it's just a rivalry, Mo. It's like Larry Bird. it's Magic and Bird. That's all it is. It's 1979 all over again in 2024. Mo, do you have any issue with the way the WNBA commissioner fielded the question during the live interview?
Yeah, because she really could have just said, as was alluded to by the directors of the players, there's no place for toxic fandom. You really need to blunt that as soon as possible. Look, there are a lot of great things about social media, but there is a dark side to social media. Everybody has an opinion, and we say everybody, that means the good and the bad. And there's a lot of negativity out there. But yeah, I thought the only thing that she said that made sense to me. So Bird and Magic didn't have social media. But if you remember, there were undertones then, but again, they didn't have social media. But had they had social media, exactly. Commissioner Stern would have had to make some kind of statement because it's just the reality of the way the world is at times. I thought the commissioner, I think she came on, like you said, thinking, oh, it's going to be an interview. It's going to be kind of vanilla. And she had some pre-prepared answers. And they kind of got into something a little deep, and she didn't want to go there. So she gave it's a rivalry.
Right. It's no big deal.
It's a rivalry. So when there's a rivalry, you're going to have fans on both sides. If it was as simple as that would be fine, but it's not as simple as that. Like you said, it's misogynistic undertones, racial undertones. And she, as the commissioner, she should have addressed that head on. And she just missed the moment.
And let's not forget, not only was there no social media back in 1979, we also didn't live in what could be classified as a politically correct world that we live in 2024 with cancel culture and everything else. So can you imagine social media in 1979 where people were not filtered and did not care what they said? It would have been 1,000 times worse than what we are seeing in 2024.
Agreed.
So it was a little tone deaf by her. But again, it's funny, Mo, because you attach these titles, right? Oh, she's the commissioner of the WM. What is she doing? She's the commissioner of the WNBA. It's a title. We don't know anything about her personally. We don't know how she does in these public speaking things. Up until this moment, if you gave me 3 names and $1 million on the line and said you get one guess, I would have had a 33% chance of picking who is the commissioner of the WNBA, because I had never heard of her name before. I had no idea. So now you're taking someone that usually isn't in the limelight, that, no offense, probably isn't interviewed all that much. And I bet you, Mo, she's been interviewed more this season than she's probably ever been interviewed any season before.
Agreed.
In her role as commissioner of the WNBA. And you're putting someone out there that doesn't do this a lot, that, isn't necessarily always thinking about the branding and all the marketing and the PC stuff. And she's taking more questions, and she was put in a box, and she just didn't respond great. I don't think she was trying to stir up the storm that she stirred up, but she did. And I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with the players union responding the way that's what they're supposed to do. The players union is supposed to come to the defense of the players. They felt that the commissioner didn't. So they're like, all right, well, guess we got to release a statement. And they did.
And let's not forget, the commissioner of any league, they work for the owners, right? Like they, you know what I mean? Like, how deep of an answer do you expect to get from a commissioner? You know what I mean? Like I think she could have met that moment, because these things that we're talking about, they're real things. And the criticism that are on one side or the other, they're far beyond the actual sport. They become personal, they're mean-spirited, and it's negative, and it is toxic fandom. To your point, she probably couldn't be recognized in a lineup prior to this season. And because of the fan bases that obviously Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark to a larger degree bring with them, she's in a spotlight that she's never been to. And maybe she just out and out isn't ready for it, and she's going to have to adjust to the time that she's in. But I have no problem with the Players Association saying, not good enough, commish, because this is what's going on. And you just glossed over it with the whole Bird and Magic. You know how that is. It's Showtime. It's Workmen Like Boston. It's that kind of thing. It's not like that at all.
We are joined now by Will this morning. Will is coming on to talk some NBA stuff with us. Will, how are you this morning, sir?
How you doing, guys? Thank you for having me on once again. I do appreciate it. What's up, Mom?
Morning.
Well, we're going to start with this. The NBA has decided they are going to expand the replay rules. The new rule is going to allow officials to review whether a foul should have been called on an out-of-bounds play. There are some people in the NBA, Will, who love replay. They want everything to be reviewed in really slow motion with the headsets on. There's other people who are like, can we just call it on the court and keep it moving, because these replays, they slow the game down. They break the momentum. They allow momentum shifts that probably shouldn't happen. And they're kind of boring to watch when you are watching a game, because they're not all huge critical moments. A lot of them are, okay, yeah, it was, yep, he was out of, and we get back to it. Will, is this going to be just another one of those things that slows the game down, or do you think this is going to add value coming? Let's be honest, we're talking playoff time here. We're not talking a Tuesday in the regular season. This is playoff basketball where we're talking whether or not it's going to have an impact. What do you think?
I think it's going to slow the game down. I really think it's going to slow it down. It's going to break pace from a lot of these teams in these games. And playoff season is it's a critical point, don't get me wrong. But I just think that call it on the court, man, and live with what comes up. It's like who came up with these rules? The bronzexuals? I'm just trying to figure out who came up with these rules. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Because if you go back and look at it, there's so many times in the past, i.e. that Scottie Pippen foul back in the day that would have sent the Bulls to the finals, but it was called.
Careful, Will. Careful.
Just saying.
Careful, Will.
Can you imagine if you had replay at that point? It's just ridiculous to me. Call it on a court and leave it be.
You're doing the Shannon Sharp. Don't do that. The reality is, Scottie Pippen was a bad foul away of getting out of the second round of the playoffs. That wasn't a conference final series.
I
That was
know.
a second round series.
I know.
A lot of people
But still,
have upgraded it to they were going to go to the finals. And they won that. That's just far from reality. It was a second round
Don't
series.
got all that now. Come on now.
Gentlemen, let's do a quick state of the NBA address. We're going to look specifically at the Western Conference this morning and one burning question for each team in the West as we head into the basketball season. Will, let's start with the Portland Trailblazers. I know there's not many expectations coming out of Portland for the upcoming season, but Will, let me ask you this. How much do you think Scoot Henderson is going to improve this upcoming season?
It should be an incremental jump. He's used to the speed of the game now, and he knows his responsibility. He needs to continue to work on his offensive game, get a little bit better on the defensive end as well. I think he'll be okay. I think you might see a couple of he might improve a couple of points per game, get his jumper down, and start to have an identity on the type of play he's going to be this season.
Mo, taking a look at the Utah Jazz, another team coming into the season that many people don't have super high expectations for. The Jazz came up mostly in recent NBA talks as to whether or not they were going to trade one of their bigger pieces to the Golden State Warriors. Mo, do you think that the team that Utah starts the season with is the same team that they're going to have coming out of the trade deadline this upcoming season?
I don't, because I think that around the trade deadline, or maybe long before that, their season is going to be over in terms of competing for a playoff spot. I think that when they signed Marketing to that extension, that was just them being smart, saying we couldn't get a deal done now, but let's get him under contract moving forward, and maybe we can get a deal done. He becomes more attractive because he's a talented player. So now he's under contract, and there's no shortage of interest in him. So I do think I think there's going to be a lot of turnover in Utah because they're a franchise in flux, and I think Danny Ainge is ready to shake things up.
And we all know who gave up on Lauren Marketing, don't we?
Will, it's okay.
Will, we don't talk about it a lot in the NBA, but there are advanced analytics in the National Basketball Association. Obviously, they're talked about a lot more in baseball and football. But if you get into some of the geek numbers in the NBA, the geek numbers will tell you those San Antonio Spurs, Will, the second half of the season last year, the advanced analytics for the Spurs were kind of off the charts. Now, we know there's a far cry between advanced analytics and W's on the floor. What are your expectations for the Spurs this upcoming season? Are the analytic numbers going to transfer into W's at the start of next season, or are we still looking at one of the bottom teams in the West?
You're still looking at one of the bottom teams in the West. They need so much on that squad to even be competitive. Wemby's fantastic, don't get me wrong, but you need so much more than that to be competitive in that West, particularly as tough as it is. So yeah, they're gonna still be at the bottom. They're still gonna be in last place.
Mo, let's talk about your Los Angeles Lakers. We know that when it comes to the Lakers, the path, the vision, where we want to end up is always the same. It is the playoffs, and it's contending for a championship. But Mo, you are very good at looking at the Lakers and simply being honest. And the question I have for you, Mo, is are they going to be better than last season? It wasn't even a hard question. I had a softball question.
I think they made some good acquisitions in terms of the draft pick to bring Dalton Connect, but top to bottom, looking at the roster, is pretty much the same team coming back. I think they make the playoffs, but if the ultimate goal is to contend for a title, they're not going to be contending for a title.
They can be the AC.
Yeah, I think. Look, they're going to be. They're a playoff team.
Yeah,
and there's levels to this. They're a playoff contender. They're not a title contender.
Right.
Well, looking at the Houston Rockets were the league's most improved team in regarding to winning percentage, point differential per 100 possessions, and points allowed per 100 possessions. There was even a moment where it looked like the Rockets were going to sneak into a play-in situation at the end of last season. What do you think the carryover is going to be for the Rockets coming into this season? Are they going to get over the hump and get in as a play-in team or a playoff team? Or are we going to look at this at the end of this upcoming season and be like, they had a good run at the end of that season, but they're not a really good team?
I think they made the play-in. They showed a lot to it that stretch. Now, they did sort of kind of falter after, they considered a little bit toward the end of the season. Then they faltered a little bit. But I think they take that momentum that they did build, because it did show they can be a winning ball club despite being so young. So I think they at least make the play-in this year.
Well, when it comes to the Memphis Grizzlies, health is always the leading question with that team. And then, of course, they're always tinkering with the bench and the depth pieces to find the right mix. If the health is there this season, Mo, do they have the right mix of players on that team to be a force in the West this season?
If the health is there, they're going to be in the conference finals.
Mm-hmm.
If the health is there, they're going to be in the conference. Look at their core: Desmond Bane, John Morant, and Jaren Jackson Jr. Just those three, that core. Then you factor in Marcus Smart. They just drafted Zach Edey, which they needed the length and the size. They're getting a Clark back who's going to be healthy. I just think if it's about health and they're healthy, conference finals.
I agree.
Will, when you look at the offensive numbers for the Clippers last season, they weren't that great. When you look at the advanced analytic numbers for the Clippers, they were even worse. But on the defensive side of the ball, across the board, the Clippers were a top 10 team in a lot of the major defensive categories last season in the NBA. Can they be a top 10 defensive team again this upcoming season?
No.
It's crushing Clippers fans this morning.
I don't like the Clippers. I don't like. They could have signed Paul George back. They could have done so much.
You know what, Will? I think what they do really well, because James Harden is their point guard, is they actually play at a really slow pace. They walk it up, so their defensive numbers are very deceptive because they play at a very slow walk it up pace. So I think they'll be, if you're in the numbers, they're going to be a top 6 or 7 defensive team, but it'll be more about their pace, not their actual ability to lock people down.
Not the actual defensive effort that they put out as a team. Yeah.
Mo, looking at the Sacramento Kings, one of their biggest key acquisitions this offseason was DeMar DeRozan. Well, is he going to fit there?
I think he's going to fit there fine. I wonder how it's going to work in a closing lineup with DeRozan, Fox, and Sabonis, because there's only one basketball, and they're going to have to find a way, because look, DeMar's a great closer. I think that if I were them, he would start, but I'd pull him early and really have him run with the second team, and then have him be on the floor during in a closing lineup, because they already have Fox, Sabonis. I just think that when you have too many scorers on the floor, it can be imbalanced, because Fox is ball dominant. DeMar could be ball dominant at times. I just think that you can stagger their minutes and get more value and more production that way.
Well, looking at the Golden State Warriors, you guys may not know this. The Golden State Warriors were 27-5 against teams that finished last season 500 or below. They were 19-31 against teams that were over 500. They beat up on the bad teams. They struggled.
They beat up on the Sisters of the Poor.
Teams.
Okay.
Yes, they did. They beat up on all the bad teams. Will, losing Klay Thompson, they added Anderson, Hield, and Melton, who, if you are a Warriors fan, they think are going to be a good fit. But Will, did they really do anything of value to make them anything more than a play-in team this season?
No, I don't think they did. I do like the signing, don't get me wrong, but he's not going to be enough to replace what Klay gave you. And I'm really starting to question Steve Kerr too. After you saw his performance in the Olympics, I'm really starting to look at Steve Kerr, because I used to be a Steve Kerr fan. Y'all know that. But now I'm starting to look at Steve Kerr a little bit because of his coaching style. I'm starting to look at him sideways just a teeny tiny bit, because I'm starting to question now, when he got a lot of people thought Clay was washed. But if you go back and look at the way Steve Kerr coached in the Olympics and the way he did last season, can we say that? Can we say he was really washed? Steve Kerr's been running the same offense since he's been there. And I'm really starting to question some of the stuff that he does. He's a small ball dude. And there's a lot of talent he didn't take advantage of. Like Wiseman, for example, he didn't take advantage of what Wiseman could. He didn't even try to develop him. So
come on,
I'm just saying.
Come on, man. Come on.
I'm starting to question. I used to be a Steve Kerr fan, but I'm starting to question. I
know Steve Kerr is the coach, but unless Steve Kerr drafted James Wiseman, don't put that on Steve Kerr. James Wiseman can't play dead. He's not any good. He's not any good. Kerr didn't ruin him. They sent him to Detroit. They said when he gets to Detroit, he's going to get an opportunity. He's still trash.
No, all I'm saying is this: and I'm not saying he's going to be anything great. I don't think he's going to be anything. The greatest thing since sliced bread. No, I'm not saying that. Simple pick and roll is all you had to do with them. That's it. And you can teach anybody. I can teach my dog to pick and roll.
Maybe, but have you seen Wiseman play? The man gets minimal effort on every play. Like
I'm just saying,
we talk about guys with high motor. He ain't got no motor. There's no motor.
But all I'm saying is I'm just starting to question, man. I'm just saying and we'll see this year with the Mavericks what Clay can really do, because they're going to put some emphasis on him in that starting lineup. So they won gold, yeah, but look at that team he won gold with.
Right, but to me, I have no problem with his coaching style in the Olympics. If you're a Boston fan, maybe you're like, well, Tatum didn't play and Halliburton didn't play. Actually, if I'm a Boston fan, I'm kind of glad Tatum didn't play. More rest. What? It was a stacked squad. Everybody wasn't going to get to play minutes. And the ultimate goal was to win the gold. With the Golden State thing, to be fair, remember, his core, they're all old. They're old. It's not, I mean, Father Time, there's only one guy beating Father Time, and he's in Los Angeles. Everybody else, they're aging. So I'm not going to kill Steve Kerr. I'm going to look at the general manager and look at the team they put together. It's not that great.
Mo, taking a look at the New Orleans Pelicans, is this the end this season with Zion and the Pelicans if things don't finally turn out the way that we've been thinking they might turn out for the past handful of seasons?
Well, I think they're going to ride him till the wheels fall off. I know, Will, you've seen him, how he's looked. He's lost a lot of weight. Looks like he's in great shape.
Mm-hmm.
But every season starts off this way, right? High optimism, great hope. He looks terrific throughout the season, and then at some point he blows a flat tire, misses the playoffs. I'm rooting for him to play a healthy season. I want to see this young man healthy in the playoffs so we can find out what he actually is. I don't even know if he's a superstar. I know he's talented and I know he's a highlight reel, but I don't really know what he is because he's hurt come postseason. I think the Pelicans as a whole, if he can stay healthy, if Brandon Ingram can rediscover his game, they might be a 6th, maybe even a 5th seed in a tough Western Conference.
I agree. It's health. It's health for them for sure. It's health, and if they can stay healthy, yeah, they'll be a fun team to watch if they can stay healthy.
And don't forget the addition of DeJounte Murray gives them another floor general as well as a point of attack defender.
He got donated to him.
Better.
He got donated to him. Come on, man.
I'll take that. I'll take
that all day long.
Well, looking at the Phoenix Suns, what difference is having an actual point guard on this team? We're referring to Tyus Jones, of course, going to make, if any, this upcoming season.
I think it's going to be huge for them. You need a floor general to run with that team. You need to get people in places where they need to get people set in places where they need to be within that offense. And that's the one thing that they liked last year. Look, Booker's not a point. He's not a point guard at all. So you upgraded at that position and you can start putting some other people at their natural positions on that starting lineup. and let's see how successful they can be.
Mo, let's look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, when you talk about Minnesota, you're talking about Anthony Edwards.
What's up, Ando?
What more can Anthony Edwards do this season to get this team to their next level, whatever you think that next level might be?
I think he just has to elevate his game in terms of closing games out on both ends of the floor. I felt like once the Timberwolves beat the Nuggets, they took a sigh of relief, like, well, we've won the championship, and somebody needed to tell them that was a second round series. There was a reason I picked Dallas to beat them. And I thought because I thought Luka's playoff tested, Kyrie's playoff tested, it showed. I think it's a maturity process for Anthony Edwards. He's the core, he's the main part of their team, but he's the youngest guy when you talk about their top line players. He's the leader. Towns is not a leader. Gobert is not a leader. So there's a lot on his shoulders. So I think he has to elevate not just as a player, but as a leader to make that next step.
I also need to show some respect to who came before you in the league as well.
Well,
no, Will talking about those Dallas
no one has
Mavericks.
any talent but Michael. But okay. I know a couple of shooting guards from back in the day, Mitch Richmond, Clyde Drexler, that'll tear you apart, man. Come on, man.
Not wrong.
Show respect. You don't get to where you are without those guys. Show respect, man. Damn.
Talking about the Dallas Mavericks, Will, the defense was the biggest surprise of the Mavericks this past season. Can they put forth the same defensive effort across the board this upcoming season?
I think they can. I think they can come out and play good team defense. They don't have a great, quote-unquote, individual defender on that roster, but I think they can play some – I think they come up with the same elements of good team defense, create some turnovers and take it down to the other side and get some baskets. I think they can do that.
Mo, let's talk about the Denver Nuggets. Is Christian Braun ready?
He better be. He better be.
Gotta be.
He better be, because the Nuggets are trending in the wrong direction. He better be. Look, when you got Joker, you're always going to be a contender. I question right now, though, whether the Nuggets are a title contender anymore, because I don't think so. I think
they've gone the wrong direction.
They've lost too much trying to save money and avoid that second apron. I think, and it's crazy, right? Because they just signed Jamal Murray to a max deal, right? But you didn't want to pay KCP, who's a glue guy and a floor spacer. And I just didn't understand that. I thought Calvin Booth as a GM had one job: at least keep your core five together, and he didn't do that.
And then, Will, we're going to end with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Obviously, trendy pick. Obviously, a lot of talent on this team. What is a realistic expectation of the Thunder this season? Are they championship contenders? Are they a team where if they get into the conference championship, you're like, okay, that's good for them? What is the actual realistic expectation of the squad?
I think they're contenders. I don't think they're champions yet because what's lying in front of them in the Western Conference. But I think they're going to be contenders for sure. I love I like the way they play. I love SGA. Those guys can really get after it. So I think they'll be contenders, third, fourth place in the West, and I think that's about as far as they go.
I think the additions of Caruso and Hartenstein is going to impact their depth of their defense a lot, because Hartenstein gives them size and Caruso gives them another perimeter defender to go with Dort and SGA. I think they have a legit chance to be in the Western Conference Finals too.
Well, before we get you out of here, we got to talk a little NFL. How about them New Orleans Saints? They had quite the performance this past weekend, Will, but I have to ask you, we can't play the Carolina Panthers every single week. It would be great if we could. What did you see that you liked? And do you think it moved the needle any as far as what this team is going to be this season?
I like what Derek Carr did this week. Coming out with he came out with attitude. If you go back and look at some of those sound clips that he made, he was talking to the Panthers players. He was talking trash, putting up signs up in the air. The offensive line played well. They opened holes for guys. Alvin Kamara looked great. That first touchdown bomb to Rashid Shaheem, oh man, that thing was a thing of beauty. But as you said, we don't get to play the Carolina Panthers each and every week. And I think it all starts coming crashing down this week in Dallas. Michael Parsons and the crew, that defense is just too good. That won't make the same mistakes at quarterback. And CD Lamb, Lattimore better be ready. He better be ready because man, that secondary is gonna have to get it done. The only way I see them winning, they got to keep it close. They got to keep it close. Run the football, keep the offense off the field. That's the only way I see them getting a chance at winning. If it gets out of hand second quarter, that thing's done.
Will, always a pleasure having you here on Wednesdays, sir. We will see you next week.
Will.
All right.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. You have a good morning.
You too.
Mo, we are going to pivot really quick, and we're going to bring the NFL genius himself, Gene from Wire to Wire Sports, onto the show. Gene, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm fired up.
Fired up? You fired up?
Going. Yes.
All right. We're going to span the NFL world with you. We're going to jump across and touch a lot of different things. So let's start here. Jordan Love, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Green Bay Packers. We have talked about this ad nauseum coming into the season. Mo and I are in agreement. We didn't think that Jordan Love is a top 5 quarterback like many people are putting him as. Injury aside, obviously not great if you are the Green Bay Packers, but it looks like he's only going to miss a handful of weeks. What did you make of Jordan Love's performance against your Philadelphia Eagles?
Listen, I've been the same way you guys have been. I came out of that game thinking Jordan Love was the better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. I hated saying that. Like, I hated that my eyes told me that. But he looked better than Jalen in that game. He has less weapons, a lesser offensive line, and they moved the ball with consistency up and down the field. Now, obviously, the first quarter was rough for both teams. The Philadelphia Eagles turned the ball over twice, and the Packers didn't capitalize on either one of those turnovers. But as the game got into the nuts and bolts, didn't feel like Green Bay moved the ball with more ease than Philadelphia did?
Now, is that more the Green Bay offense, or is that more secondary issues with the Philadelphia Eagles? Because there were some things where I'm just like, who are we covering in the Eagles secondary right now? Because there were a couple of them where, what are we doing?
They really picked on Avonte Maddox. Maddox was the guy that was thrown in to start after Isaiah Rodgers didn't play. I hated that decision. Quinyon Mitchell, our first-round draft pick, played our entire preseason in the slot. When Isaiah Rodgers didn't start, the whole world just assumed Keely Ringo will start on the outside. We'll keep Quinyon in the slot. The Eagles moved Quinyon to the outside, which he did a great job on Christian Watson. But Jade Reed in the slot abused Avonte Maddox. And that was where I think our biggest hole in our secondary was. But got to give credit for Jordan Love. He put the ball where it needed to be in a lot of different scenarios. It could have been a little bit of both, but Jordan didn't look bad in that football game. I think the field hurt both teams in the sense that slipping and sliding, that was a disgrace that the NFL had a game there. But with that being said, I think Jordan walked away from that game looking better than Jalen.
Let's talk a little bit about Daniel Jones. It came out yesterday morning, or maybe this morning it came out. But either way, Daniel Jones is still the starting quarterback of the New York Football Giants, as confirmed by his head coach. Gene, there was a quote yesterday from a linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings. He said, I felt bad. I felt bad what we were doing to Daniel Jones as that game went on, which you don't hear defenses say they feel bad for the other quarterback, but that's how bad it was at one point. Daniel Jones didn't look like a bad quarterback, Gene. He looked inept as the starting quarterback for the New York Giants, and those god-awful uniforms did not help either, I don't think. How much longer are we going to have to suffer through Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback in this league?
I'll give you a really quick, fun story. I made a bet with a guy I work with. He's a Giants fan. He thinks the Giants are going to finish above 500. And the bet is the loser has to deliver Sunday meal to the winner's house with whoever's at their house for like not like a Super Bowl party, but like a football party.
Right.
I asked him, do you want to deliver that this week?
Right.
I think, it's the scary part of this is I think if they remove him from the equation, they get extraordinarily better. I think they get so much better if they just start Drew Lock. I think 4 weeks. I don't think that he'll last more than 4 weeks. If you look at the way the Giants' schedule lines up, I think if they go, it's a very easy schedule. It's a last place schedule to begin with. But I think if you look at the way it lines up, if they're 1-3 or 0-4, I think they make the move to Drew Lock a lot sooner rather than later. They lose at the Commanders. You might see them make the move before the Browns game, but they get the Commanders, which should be their win. They normally do well versus Washington, and then they got to play at Cleveland and Dallas. Good luck. That's the top two defenses in football last year.
Obviously, week 1, it's overreaction all over across the board. Patriot fans are puffing their chests coming out of week 1. Bengals fans have their head in the sand. The sky is falling. Obviously, it doesn't help if you're the Bengals. You got Higgins who didn't play. Chase barely practiced throughout the week. They're not going to be as bad as they were. I don't think they're going to be as great either as some Bengals fans think.
The way Jamar Chase was running routes that game, it was like he's like, I don't want to be here. And it was so odd. He didn't sell anything unless the play was dictated for him. He didn't do anything. That was awful.
That was awful.
Awful.
Patriot fans, where are they? Where should they be? Because like I said, they're 1-0. They're feeling good. They're talking about the defense is going to carry us this season. And if Jacoby can just do what he did and just not lose the game, we got a shot. Do they got a shot, Gene?
Can we give Patriots fans their credit, though? Can we give Look, let's give Gerard Mayo his credit. He was given a losing roster, and he went out there, and those guys fought their ass off. Look, Cincinnati is a mess. I called Cincinnati being a mess. I told you that franchise is disheveled. I picked them to finish last in that division when everybody thought I was nuts. I'm going to tell you something right now. The Patriots aren't going to win 7, 8, 9 games. They're not going to be in the playoffs. But let's give credit where credit's due. Gerard Mayo's done a great job rebuilding that culture in New England and keeping that defensive and that run game. They had the 32nd ranked offensive line in football. Ramondre Stevenson didn't look like he was running behind this 32nd best offensive line in football. I got to give the Patriots all the credit in the world. I still don't think they win more than 6 or 7 games, but let's give them credit. That team got out there and fought. And we could talk about how bad Cincinnati looked, but I'm of the inclination that a team came in on the road in Cincinnati in the game they had no business winning and won. Good for them.
Gene, one of the best things I saw from the weekend was a meme of Russell Wilson. One of the most Russell Wilson things ever is a guy who is inactive. He cannot play. No matter what happened on Sunday, Gene, he could not play in that game, but he was in full gear on the sidelines. Pads, the whole 9 yards in a game that he was never going to play in. Perhaps I thought it was funny. What is going to happen in Pittsburgh? I mean, yes, I don't think Justin played terrible. I thought he played all right, but you're looking at a team that they didn't score a touchdown. They didn't score a touchdown. I mean, it was 6 field goals against a Falcons team with a rebuilt defense and an offense where Kirk Cousins looked like he was scared to move and get hit in that game. Where is Pittsburgh? Who is going to be their starting quarterback long-term this season? Are we going to see Russ back? Is it going to be Fields reigns until it's not Fields reigns? What is Pittsburgh going to do?
I always thought it should be Justin Fields. I think Justin's the better quarterback of the two. Justin still holds the ball way too long, took way too many unnecessary sacks, lost way too many yards. But you know the difference I've seen with Justin Fields in Pittsburgh versus the Justin Fields in Chicago? When the game got on the line, he didn't lose him the football game. They didn't put him in a position to where he threw the ball to the other team.
True.
Justin Fields made a lot smarter decisions. I think he should be their starter. I think Russell Wilson's going to have one of the most interesting 30 for 30s in the next 5-10 years. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not hurt. I'm not. Don't take that like that's a weird tinfoil hat. I wouldn't be surprised if he's cooked and just they're trying to hide it as much as humanly possible. He looked awful. He looks terrible. Every time I've seen Russell Wilson on the field, and I don't want to hate on the guy because he was incredible in Seattle, but it's going to be a very interesting 30 for 30. I think Justin Fields remains the starting quarterback the entire year. This is the easy part of the Steelers' schedule. If they get off to a 4-2 or 5-1 start, Russ will never take that job from him.
We predicted it here on the morning show. We said that the Texans were going to win, but it was going to be close, and it was a close game. But, Gene, you can't come out of that game if you are a fan of the Indianapolis Colts not looking at their starting quarterback and saying he isn't the best thrower of the football consistently. Now, we're all watching that one highlight play, right? The Colts even had the overhand cam shot, which was absolutely amazing. Watching him basically fall down and throw flat-footed, falling backwards in the air, 60-plus yards, an absolute dime. He has talent. But you look, and I think he was 9 for 19 were his stat numbers. He consistently struggles to hit the 50% mark when he's completing his passes. Obviously, winning changes everything. If he's going to go 9 for 19 and rush for 80 yards a game and have 3 plays like that, they're going to win a lot of football games. Where are you with Anthony Richardson? And do you see him being the long-term successful starter of the Indianapolis Colts?
I'm the same spot I was with Anthony Richardson when he came out of the draft. He's a project, and I love what Shane Steichen can do by scheming different things open and keeping the Colts in games. He's a great football coach. But Anthony Richardson is a mixture between Cam Newton and Tim Tebow. And it's literally, that's the two players he is. At absolute best, if he consistently learns how to throw the football, he could be what Cam was, which was an MVP. He has that ability and that talent. But right now, the way he throws the football, he looks a lot more like Tim Tebow. He's never been a good thrower to football. His best throw is the deep ball. And if you play him and you're not making him throw that intermediate routes, those out routes, those sharp routes, you got to play him too high. You have to play him too high. You need to make him make those intermediate throws and be able to beat you that way. The Texans, a couple times, kind of made that mistake of dipping in too far, and then you see that highlight 60-yard bomb to Alec Pierce. That's what Anthony Richardson will do to you. But with that being said, he's really got to develop as a passer to football.
I think the most on-schedule team this past weekend was the Buffalo Bills. Everything that was talked about Buffalo going into this season, I think you saw on tape in game 1. The defense took a step back. Yes, they did. They had trouble with Kyler Murray and the weapons of the Arizona Cardinals. And I say weapons lightly because there ain't a ton of weapons over there, but the Buffalo Bills defense struggled a little bit. Josh Allen spread the ball around. We said that he was going to spread the ball around more without Stephon Diggs there, and they did. We said the Buffalo Bills, if they were smart, were going to lean on their running game, not through Josh Allen, but through James Cook. And they did. And we said that if Josh Allen is spreading the ball around and they're running the football, when it matters the most, Josh Allen is going to be able to step up and put the team on his back. And he did. They were down 17-3 early. Josh Allen rallied them back. I think they scored the last 24 points of that game or so until the kick return for the touchdown late in the game. Buffalo did everything on paper that we thought they were going to do, and they did it well. So, Gene, as you were looking at the Buffalo Bills coming out of that game, Josh Allen has a hand injury, but he is good to go Thursday night in Miami against the Dolphins. Where are you with Buffalo? Is this exactly where you thought they were going to be?
100% where I thought they were going to be. And what the one thing that really, it was a tale of two halves with that defense. I'm really interested to see if Sean McDermott, a defensive coach, a good defensive coordinator, can schematically put this defense in a place to be a moderate defense without pieces. He really doesn't have pieces on a defense. With Matt Milano being injured for the year, Buffalo's defense is, I'm not like trying to be like weird about this to Bills fans. I have a lot of Bills Mafia guys I love, but their defense is a who's who. It's Ed Oliver and a bag of Cheetos. That defense is not good, but schematically, Sean McDermott is putting them in the right spots. The adjustments he made at halftime, that defense looked better. Now, to be fair, Kyler Murray missed some wide open players.
Wide open.
And Marvin Harrison Jr. walks in for a touchdown if he hits him on that double move. But, yeah, I love the way their offense is structured. Joe Brady is making a focus on making sure Josh Allen calms down on the arm punts, just throwing the ball to the other team and triple coverage. And they're running the football, and Josh is doing Josh things. He's their best goal line back. He's unstoppable within 15 yards. They just get in the end zone every time. With that being said, I think that Miami Dolphins really beat them up this week.
I hope so. I'm not as confident as you are because we can't seem to beat Buffalo for some reason. But speaking of the Dolphins, Gene, you've been on the Trevor Lawrence train, and it was another situation where Trevor was given an opportunity. It's not his fault. His running back fumbled the football going up 24-7. It's not his fault that a couple of receivers dropped wide open passes. But with 4.5 minutes to play in a tie game, the ball was in his hands, and they were not able to get into field goal position. Tua takes over with 2 and change to go. They go down, they kick the game-winning field goal. This is kind of what we see from Trevor Lawrence. It's just these added opportunities of, here it is, go do it. And he just doesn't consistently do it as well as you would want someone of his talent to do it. This is another tale of two halves. The first half, the Jacksonville Jaguars wiped the floor with the Miami Dolphins. The second half, the Dolphins found a little bit of offense, and the Jaguars didn't score in the second half of the game. Where are you sitting with both of these teams coming out? Because either one of these teams easily could have won this game, and either one of these teams easily could have lost this game.
I love that you brought this up. This is my favorite talking point right now because let me just be clear. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is clutch. Like, I think the last 4 minutes of a game tell you a lot about a quarterback that you can't watch on tape, right? You could watch this guy play for 50 minutes in a game, or sorry, it's 60-minute game. You could watch this guy play for 50 minutes a game and think he's incredible. And then that last 4 or 5 minutes, it's just not there. But here's what I want to point out to you. And this is the most telling part to me. It's 17-7. 17-7. Trevor Etienne is running the ball. Travis Etienne's running the ball in to win the game at the 3-yard line. They fumble the ball. It's 24-7 in the fourth quarter. There was like 30 seconds left in the third quarter when that happened.
Yep.
The game's over.
Yep.
The next play is an 80-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill. I want to read you the next 8 play calls. Run, 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 punt. Run, 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 punt. Run, sack, incompletion, punt. I don't know what, like, is it a Peterson thing? Is it a Trevor Lawrence thing? Is he not given the ability to change the play at the line of scrimmage? But that was your next 12 play call. I took out the punts, but that was your next 9 play calls. That can't be what you do in a 17-14 game. You had the game won. You fumbled it out the end zone. Now, Christian Kirk had a really bad drop in the first half. Who cares? That every team has dropped. The Evan Ingram drop, that's a drop I can't live with. Mm-hmm. That's the 3rd down. That's a huge drop. But we say incompletion. And he looks at 12 or 21. But in reality, he's 14 of 21 with an extra 40 yards if those balls aren't dropped. Every quarterback has drops. Can't do that. What I will say this is the great ones, Josh Allen being one, Patrick Mahomes, they find ways. It's not just, they don't allow the scheme, the coach, anything to change what they're doing. I've not seen Trevor Lawrence find that way. And when he got that contract, if I'm Trevor Lawrence and I'm looking at this situation, I'm like, nah, audible. I'm calling it the line of scrimmage. We're throwing the football. We're not doing this again. And I put that on Trevor Lawrence. But I don't put much on him because it's 24-7. He did everything right for 3 quarters.
Yep.
And then they decide, Doug Peterson, run, run, run.
He attempted 7 passes in the second half of that game. 7.
You can't do that.
Play not to lose.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's a Doug thing or if that's I don't know if the option was you can check at the line of scrimmage if you see this, if the defense is showing you this. But when I watched that game, Miami was loading the box up. They were owning the line of scrimmage. Why are you not throwing the football? I would check out of those plays. And I blame that on Lawrence because where he's at in his career, he has to be able to check out of those plays.
Gene, who are you more impressed with this weekend, Dak Prescott or Baker Mayfield?
Baker Mayfield. That's easy. Dak Prescott didn't play that good. Deshaun Watson played that bad. And that's literally what happened in Cleveland. Well, it makes you look a lot better when, look, you know, what's funny thing is, I think they had 13 possessions, which is absurd for a football game. That's how quickly the Cleveland Browns were punting the football. That can't happen. Baker Mayfield, He's had a resurgence, man. He's looked so much better. And guys, we were on the Baker train last year. I got off the Baker train. I'm like, oh, he's going to take a step back. Kirk Cousins is going to win that division. I don't know, man. Todd Bowles got that team rolling. The Buccaneers look good.
I'm back on.
Speaking of Deshaun Watson,
I'll be on next week.
Deshaun has another case pending against him. We'll see how that unfolds, but that was announced this week as well. Gene, let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Jets. Obviously not great if you are the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, but the Cupcake Express is lining up. Bo Nix, Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett, Will Levis.
By the way,
they got to go 4-0, right? They got to go 4-0. That
Will Levis pass is the worst pass I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never seen anything like it. I was so baffled watching that play.
Have you seen his mayonnaise commercial? I'm just asking. Have you seen the mayonnaise commercial?
That might have been the worst pass I've ever seen in my life. I mean that when I say that.
The pass and the reaction.
Let me talk about the 49ers first. Let me give them their roses. Kyle Shanahan's scheme running the football looks really familiar to Mike Shanahan's scheme running the football. Those zone blocks, it's not like they were bullying the Jets at the line of scrimmage. They were schematically opening holes. And that zone block, because you don't know where the block is coming from. If I'm Quinnen Williams and I'm lining up and I'm thinking the block's coming from the guard and the tackle hits me from the side, it's so schematic. It's such genius on the offensive level. I got to give the 49ers credit in the world because they showed you, I know CMC is the best running back in the world. They showed you anybody can run behind that scheme and that system. Give them credit, but man, that looked good. I think that we should pump the brakes on the panic of the Jets. Aaron Rodgers hadn't played for 500 some days. They called a very scared game plan. They ran the ball at Breece Hall into the line of scrimmage multiple times. They didn't really let Aaron open it up. And I will say this, Aaron does look for Allen Lazard way more than I'm comfortable with.
All the time. Three people. It was Lazard, Wilson, and Hall. Those are the only ones that caught passes from Aaron Rodgers in that game.
It's a little much. And if you're on fantasy football, go pick up Allen Lazard. He's probably on your free agent wire. But I'll say this: the Jets should go through that cupcake schedule. Robert Saleh will have that defense ready to go against these young quarterbacks. He made a lot of really good quarterbacks look very normal last year. I think he's going to make a lot of bad quarterbacks look really bad this year.
Gene, what's happening tonight on Wire to Wire Sports?
I mean, it's football. We're going to break down a lot of football, whether it be college or pro. Overreaction Monday. We'll talk about that. We also have a UFC card at the Sphere. Sugar Show. Sean O'Malley's fighting. That should be a very good fight. We're going to talk about that. Then we have trivia. I got a couple weeks in a row winning streak. I'm trying to catch up to Shally. He's got me 9-4 right now, but we got a trivia question tonight. Cottrell will be giving it out. But yeah, it should be a fun show. Really looking forward to talking more NFL. You got to be kidding me, might be Will Levis's throw. Once again, worst throw I've ever seen in my life. Did you guys see Brian Callahan's comments after the game? Do you want to talk about destroying your young quarterback? This guy's quote at the press after the game was, if we just punted the ball on 1st and 10, we probably would have won the game.
Did say that.
I was like, did you just say that about your starting quarterback?
But was he wrong?
No, he wasn't. That was really bad.
Gene, always a pleasure, sir. We'll see you next week, all right?
Appreciate you, Gene.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Mo, always a pleasure having Will and Gene here on the show with us. Mo, before we get out of here today, we always do this, at least once a week. We close with some wrestling stuff. AEW is under fire for what took place at their All-In pay-per-view. Guys, if you did not see it, the main event involved the use of hypodermic needles. Yeah, that's correct. I said that. There were hypodermic needles used to inject Swerve. Jonathan Coachman came out and he condemned AEW as well as a bunch of other WWE superstars, which again, you take it with a grain of salt. If when the WWE guys are coming out and jumping on the AEW guys, you can just say brand bias, whatever it is. But there were a lot of non-biased people, except for Dave Meltzer, because he's apparently very pro AEW nowadays. But there were a lot of non-biased AEW and WWE people who came out and all kind of had the same thought process of what the hell are we doing over there? And Mo, I walked away feeling the same thing. What are we doing? What are we doing? If we're trying to get headlines, it's working. People definitely talked about it. There were a lot of people who talked about it. And there were a lot of still shots of those needles, or that needle hanging out of Swerve's face, that made its way around the social media rounds.
It was crazy.
Mo, this is not it.
They're doing too much. I'm sorry. I watched that match, and when he went, so he couldn't pin Swerve Strickland.
Right.
So it just got to the point where they went the next level. Whips out the needle. The needle goes into the mouth. Then after the needle, a headshot with a chair, not the usual shot to the back, but he goes clean upside his head. And I'm like,
and not
protected. The needle, right?
Not hands up. It was clean to the head.
Look, that's dangerous in so many ways. I just think they did too much. You're pushing the envelope, or you're trying to. You're way past the envelope when you're starting to use needles in unprotected chair shots. You're doing too much.
It's the Attitude Era in 2024. I
think it's beyond the Attitude Era. You could also, they should have made a comment about what happened at the end of the Bryan Danielson match when
that was the plastic bag, right?
Right.
Over Danielson's head.
That's not cool, man. Don't play around with stuff like that. That's doing too much. Don't do that, man. That's crazy.
And then you turn on Raw Monday night, and they're just bringing back Bret Hart to Canada. That's all Raw's doing. Raw's just like, here, take Bret Hart.
Right.
Enjoy yourself some nostalgia. That's how we're gonna give you the feels.
Great point. They went with let's do something wholesome and bring out bring out the elder statesman or whatever and let people feel good. We're not doing any of that extra stuff, right?
Man, oh man. Last thing, what do you make? And I'm a sucker for this, because as much as I don't like him at times, I am sucked right in. If this whole Sami Zayn Intercontinental Championship beating Gunther for the IC, if the whole point of all of this was to establish Sami Zayn as a credible threat to win the World Heavyweight Championship from Gunther, because he's the only one to have beaten him, really?
Correct.
I might be here for it. I
find it interesting because I like the storyline, because Sammy's like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready because I am the one that beat you. And Gunther's like, Sammy, you make
didn't earn it.
Point, but you know what? You're not worthy. He's like, Sammy, you know what? No. He keeps telling him no, but at some point, Sami Zayn's going to do something to make that a yes.
Man, oh man, but I might be here for it. If that's the kind of storytelling we're telling over here in WWE, what the hell are you doing, Tony Khan? What are you doing? You're not even playing checkers. You're playing like hungry hippos over there.
They're over there doing something like Saw. Not cool.
Mo, take us to a close on a Wednesday.
Thank you guys for joining us so much on a wonderful Wednesday. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Hey, we're back tomorrow, same time, same place. We are breaking down Thursday night football. It is the Buffalo Bills heading to take on the Miami Dolphins. Battle for the AFC East lead early in the season. It should be a great one. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to Wire.